Welcome, everyone, to Partner Up with Amy Carroll. As a communication coach, trainer, speaker, and author, I'm delighted to be your host and excited to bring you insights and ideas to help you solve your communication conundrums. This is the 32nd episode of my show, Partner Up with Amy Carroll. If you want to find out more about me or what the show is about, feel free to listen to previous episodes on my website, carrollcoaching.com, or go directly to the VoiceAmerica business channel. And be sure to download the app or check it out anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. Now, if you missed last week's show, I interviewed Akim Nowak. He is a former mediator and executive coach working with successful leaders, helping them to become even more successful. Check out that episode from April 2nd. Today, my guest is Krisandra Knight. Welcome, Krisandra.
Thank you, Amy. Excited to be here.
Yeah, and I am too, because I'm thinking back, you and I first met in Denmark, right?
That's correct, yeah.
2010 for a leadership training. And we've been corresponding and connecting and sharing success stories since then.
Yes, absolutely. And it's one of my favorite courses, and it's had a big impact on my life.
Oh, that's really cool to hear. Well, let me tell listeners a little bit of your background, and I actually have some questions as we go through for you. So Krisandra is the head of sales operations for Maersk Oceania. Her teams ensure smooth sailing for the customer journey. I love that expression. She's a WISTA Australian Committee Member and excited to be part of a dynamic and growing industry. So, Krisandra, the first question I have for you is, what is WISTA?
Yes, WISTA is Women's International Shipping and Trading Association. It's a global association and a consultative body to the IMO. And it's a dynamic organization for leaders in the shipping and trading and logistics industries and across the maritime sectors, and really full of energy and a great network to be a part of.
And I'm assuming you've been having Zoom gatherings the last year or so?
Yeah, we were very happy to introduce in 2020 a series of webinars for WISTA members and non-members. And we've had such great feedback. They've been such a success that we've continued on all kinds of topics to support leaders in those industries, but applicable to anyone in the workplace.
Oh, okay. Very cool. So a little bit more about Krisandra's background. Her passion for customer experience was sparked by her mother's struggles with multiple sclerosis. Her mom spent a lot of time in hospitals and many years in a wheelchair. And from the age of 12, Krisandra was advocating for access, respect, and care for her mom. Her experience has shaped her as an advocate for respect and care for customers. Customer experience is about acknowledging our humanness. Isn't that so true? That's beautiful. And acting with empathy, despite the challenges that institutional processes, procedures, and systems can put in our way. Krisandra has a funny, joyful, and determined 4-year-old, Tilly Ruth. I like that name. How did you guys come upon that name?
Yes, so Tilly Ruth, I'm from the South in the US, and I just kind of love, I was Chrissy K as a little one, and my mother was Martha K, and I really liked that sort of rhythm. So yeah. Tilly Ruth was definitely high on our list. We're really happy to say that Ruth is a family name. So my wife, Katie, is her middle name. It's one of Tilly's cousin's middle name, and it's Katie's grandmother's middle name. So It's a nice family name. And
yeah, a lot Tilly of connections.
Exactly. And Tilly was a little bit Aussie, and I think a little bit fun as well. So Tilly Ruth.
Oh, very cool.
She lives up to the name.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to hear more about Tilly Ruth, I think. And I'm having a little problem here with my headset. Give me a second. Okay, I'm back. Now, your wife is a graphic designer and painter, though you know that already. That's really for the listener. You're like, oh, that's right. And of course, when Krisandra's not working, she's either on the pitch or the playground with Tilly Ruth. Yes, and like you said, you're originally from Florida, now living in Sydney, Australia.
Yes. Yeah.
So
it's beautiful here.
It's a place that I have yet to visit, and I really very much want to, because the climate and everything, though the people, Australians I meet are just lovely human beings.
Agreed. Australians and Canadians are right up there with the loveliest people you meet traveling, I think.
Yeah. And that expression down to earth, I think probably fits well for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're really spoiled being here. It's a beautiful city to be in, lots of nature. And I think a very authentic, connective type culture.
Mm-hmm. When you and I were talking weeks back about you coming on, we talked about how it would be really cool to have you share your experiences with the partner techniques and how they helped you to stay collaborative as both a parent and a leader. Yes. Now, before I start aiming questions your way, I want to first give the listeners some backstory in case they're not familiar with when we talk about partner techniques. Some of it's pretty common sense, though. There's a little explanation that will benefit listeners. So the quick overview is this model of predator-prey partner, which comes from my sister, Pat Kirkland, who developed it. And the idea is most of us are being partners most of the time, meaning I'm holding high respect for myself, high respect for the other, all is well. The problem, under pressure, stress, perceived threat, crisis, COVID, or just if we're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, we are going to, many of us, if we haven't trained ourselves, likely slip into either predator or prey. So the predator, she's holding too much respect for herself, not enough for others, acting very perhaps perceived as arrogant or aggressive or intimidating. Any way you cut it, it's likely to damage a relationship. Yes. Whereas the prey, P-R-E-Y, is usually being submissive, showing too much respect for the other, not enough for herself. And you would think this is okay, and people would like that. No. It can actually trigger people to become aggressive towards the prey, towards the person being too nice. So the program you took years ago was about those concepts and teaching the behaviors of body language, voice, words to stay partner under pressure. And then what I brought into that is the partner mindset techniques that you and I are going to be talking about. And I also suspect there's a lot of the behaviors you're using really well as well. So like right now, listeners can't see the gorgeous smile you have, though it's infectious. So
thank you.
Absolutely. So the partner mindset techniques are the mindset part. What are we thinking? What are we feeling? What are we telling ourselves? What stories are we making up that are either helping us to stay partner or pulling us out of partner? So I feel like that's a good enough overview for us to go with. Would you add anything?
Absolutely. Well, I was just thinking what I would add that really rang true for me was the prey is a bit like that people pleaser where maybe, over caring for others, not caring enough for ourselves. And I remember you talking about the pissed off prey.
Yeah.
Right. Where, can I say that word?
We can say big words here, bad words. In French, they call them big words. I said a big word.
It's funny because we blame the French for all our bad language, don't we? But that pissed off prey, that where you really kind of turn and go aggressive, I was struggling with that and had no kind of language or idea. And the model has really helped me be intent. I have intent about how I want to interact and also be aware of when I am, kind of falling back into some of those prey habits. So I found it incredibly powerful.
That's so encouraging to hear. And something to understand is so another expression, the acronym for the pissed off prey is when they pop.
I forgot that part. That's brilliant.
That actually I have to give credit to one of my former coachees for coming up with that. And the thing is, the reason why they pop in the first place is because a situation under pressure happens and they deal with it in a really nice, kind way. And when that doesn't work, they get nicer and nicer and nicer. And so where they're unbeknownst to the prey, they're unknowingly triggering someone to be even more aggressive towards them. Not that a prey should take responsibility for someone else's behavior, though it's just the human dynamics. And because at some point a prey is like, basta, enough is enough. I am not putting up with this anymore. Because they have that inner self-respect, they blow up, they pop, and I'm doing this arc in the sky where they jump into predator behaviors. And so a lot of prey think they're being predators when it's not really, the origin is not predator origin. Yeah.
Yes. And keeping that respect is something, high respect for others, high respect for ourselves. It is a challenge, especially under pressure. And it's a great model that I find really useful.
And I know we're going to be talking about this more about your daughter and your role as a parent and your role as a leader. And I'll be very curious to know if you consciously teach some of these things to Tilly Ruth, or if you do things that you're modeling partner behavior for her. So feel free to share any of those if you think of them.
Absolutely.
All right, should we jump in?
Let's do it.
So I'm going to ask you, the first question is, how has becoming a parent helped you to become a better leader?
Well, so having a 4-year-old, Tilly Ruth, is a fantastic mirror for your behaviors. And in a very genuine and authentic way, she's really great at calling me out when I'm not being collaborative.
Ouch.
She just instinctively knows. So I've got this little mirror who is very good at reflecting back what I'm doing, or telling me verbally, what I need to be doing. And she's just really increased my level of empathy, not only kind of standing in my own shoes, but also looking at her and the challenges from when she was little, how much work it is to learn these new skills, as a growing child, but also, it's a big world, and there's lots going on, and just developing that sort of empathy of, we just don't know what's happening in people's lives, and just sort of walking in with that respect, assuming positive intent. So she's really upped my level of empathy, and also, ironically, improved my patience. So really,
that is
yes,
bonus.
So really a good reminder, like when I'm not being patient, and telling me very clearly I'm not being patient.
Okay, so we got to jump into some examples of how she does this.
Yeah. So one of the standouts is that she's really good about telling me when I'm rushing her. And I would admit, as I imagine many parents have done, say, I'm not going to push my kid, right? I'm going to be really relaxed and let them explore
for 3 minutes.
Absolutely. And she's just really good at saying, stop rushing me. You're rushing me. Stop rushing me. And how that lands with me is that I go, okay, so not even conscious I'm rushing, but you're right. Absolutely. You're right. I am rushing you. I'm going to take a step back. So I take a step back, and then mentally I'm thinking, why am I rushing? Like what's really pushing me? And then many times it is, I just want to be on time somewhere, or I'm thinking about the next thing and not about where I am. So that's really teaching me to be present. That's what I want to aspire to be. So
when I hear that, and I imagine putting myself in your shoes, and like maybe I'm taking care of someone's kid, and I have a plan. I want to go somewhere. I want to do something. My motivation, I think, would be a little less altruistic. It would be about, because it's Amy's agenda and it's Amy's world, and Amy has things to do and places to go, so I think it would feel a little bit like a slap in the face, and a healthy one, useful one, to realize, oh, wow, Amy, you're not the only person in the room here. And just because you have your agenda and you want to do what you want to do doesn't mean that other people's needs and preferences aren't equally important. So I could feel like, I could imagine if a little kid said that to me, I'm like, ouch. Oh, okay. They're right. Oh, right. I'd be desperately looking for my good reason for rushing, because we have to do what Amy wants to do. Yeah. So I can imagine.
Well, that's just it, right? Like I also very early on, in knowing when I was going to become a parent, thought, well, and I'm not going to just say, 'cause I say so. Like, that's not going to be me. That's the type of parent I'm going to be. But that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Well, because I said so. So I really do try to check that one. And it's been
Nice.
so enlightening. Like, why am I so hung up on this? Why am I, what is really going to happen if we're late to soccer class? Like, what
Right.
really is the impact there? And so that's been one thing where I've just said, oh my God, you're totally right. We don't need to rush. It's Saturday. Like, let's just enjoy this time. What I also find, and this relates back to the partner techniques, is it's because I'm really attached, right, to that outcome. Like there's something I'm driving for. And little kids pick up on this so quickly and they put the brakes on because the one thing they don't want to do, right, in inserting their independence is they definitely don't want to do what we want them to do. And that's healthy. That's that separation.
Right.
What can she control, and who is she, and what are her decisions is what's going through Tilly's mind. So
let me pause and
so I just catch myself.
So I want to come back to this because I also want to make the connection to the leadership. Though for listeners, something that Krisandra just mentioned was when we're attached to outcomes. So the partner mindset technique, to help with that is I encourage people to detach from the outcome. Okay, you're like, yeah, Amy, that's obvious. That's simple. What do you mean by that? How do you do that? Well, oddly enough, and tell me if this is true for you, Krisandra, sometimes just becoming aware that I'm attached to wanting something and acknowledging that makes me slightly less attached to it. So that helps me to detach somewhat. And then also I might find a way to give myself some empathy. I'm like, oh yeah, because I was really wanting to get there early because I wanted to get a good parking spot, or I want to get a good seat or something like that. So the first awareness, then the empathy is a great way to help us detach from the outcome. And when we detach from the outcome, we're less likely to go prey or predator.
Absolutely. And I think of it, the little kind of analogy I have in my head is when you're trying to untie a knot, pulling harder, is the knot just gets tighter, right? You don't go anywhere with it. Whereas getting detached from that outcome, I kind of feel like loosens that knot and you can kind of start to unravel it. And I've uncovered a lot of things, like I do want to be early. And it's not just about the good parking spot, right? It's about like I'm a parent, I'm on time, I'm responsible, I'm organized. So all these stories in my head about who I am and what this behavior displays for me. And when she holds up that little mirror, like you're rushing me, or puts the brakes on, no, I'm not going to put on my shoes. It really does allow me to just say, okay, like what am I driving for and why am I driving for it? And in many cases, just that acknowledgement is enough to actually help move her along as well.
Ironic.
So just saying, oh my gosh, you're right. I'm rushing you. You're so good at putting on your shoes. Of course you know how to do that. Let me give you some time. And then, she's like on board. And I find it's very similar because we're all humans. I think it's really similar in the workplace. And I had a call last week with someone where the one thing on my mind when I called was, how are we going to get this list of things done? We've got to get these quotes out to customers. How are we going to get it done? When I started talking to her, it just sort of hit me. I was like, oh my God, this just isn't possible. I'm asking too much, and just really switched my frame of mind. So instead of driving for that outcome, just really listening to the person working for me and saying, what can we do? So what's realistic? What's possible? And helping guide those priorities, right? If we can only get 5 things out of 10 done, let's pick the most important 5. So for me, I think my ability to do that in the workplace has been, I guess, encouraged or broadened by these interactions with Tilly. She really does sort of help me become much more aware of how my own behaviors are affecting those around me and affecting the outcomes that I really want to deliver.
Wow, that's very cool to see the concrete application of it. And I think it's important for listeners to appreciate that when we're encouraging them to be detached from the outcome, we're not implying or suggesting they should give up on their goals or hopes or desires. And with the example you give with the work environment, what you were looking at is what's realistic, what's feasible.
Mm. Yeah, and then honestly, it becomes my problem how we get the other ones done, right? So I think sort of taking that ownership back and saying, like, we need to do this as a team. What can you do? What's realistic for you? And then I got to solve the rest of it. And I think sometimes it is a little bit like you're trying to get Tilly dressed and out the door. It's actually my problem because she's perfectly fine running around the house naked, you know? So it's like, how do we work together with that, together on that so that she doesn't feel rushed and we can get dressed and we get out the door at a reasonable time. And I really find detaching from that outcome and not driving for it helps us both get there together.
Ironic.
Not necessarily as quickly as I would like, but
sure,
we get there together.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. When we were talking a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned an author, Janet Langsbury. Did I say it right? Tell me more about that book she wrote and why you like it so much.
So Janet Lansbury wrote No Bad Kids, and she does a fantastic podcast, and she translates those into a blog that you can read as well. And it really sounds silly to say this, but what she advocates is that babies are whole human beings and deserve all of our respect from birth, which sounds really obvious because you wouldn't say that they don't deserve our respect. But what it really brought home to me is I didn't think necessarily considered Tilly at all times, at all ages, to be this whole human with her own opinions and decision-making authority, etc. And it's really reframed that for me. And what she advocates for is respectful parenting. And that is all about collaborating with kids and meeting them where they're at, right? So, of course, you collaborate with a 2-year-old differently from a 4-year-old, differently from an 8-year-old.
Sure.
And being aware of what their capabilities are and being able to meet them there. It has opened my eyes to kind of my own behaviors that have maybe not been so collaborative. And I'm not trying to give the impression that I'm perfect at these things, but it also is a good reminder, right? Like one of those awareness triggers. We go, oh, oops, did that again. Or, oh, I'm sounding really authoritarian right now. Okay, let me rephrase. And Janet Lansbury's brilliant. And every time I listen to one of her podcasts or I read it, not only does it inspire me to be a better parent with Tilly, but I think, oh, I could have really used that
at work
when I was talking with one of my colleagues, right? Or when I was trying to get that project done. So I find it, very fascinating.
Okay, excellent. So Janet Langsbury, No Bad Kids is the name of her book, and Respectful Parenting is the concept. Wow, I'm going to have to check that out also, because like you said, it's even if I don't have little mini people, I'm still going to benefit, I think. So we're going to be taking a break in a little while, though. Before we do, I'm wondering if we can broach this topic of, there's one partner mindset technique that I advocate, which is the broken record approach, which is simply using the same approach or the same phrase, usually over and over until the person responds to your request, though doing it in such a way that is calm, cool, collected. There's no edge, there's no attitude, there's no frustration coming out in the delivery. Is that how you would describe the broken record approach, or would you add more to that?
Absolutely. And before having Tilly, before becoming a parent, I thought I was really good at this. And I thought, oh, I'm really staying calm. I'm iterating the point. I'm making it clear, this is where we need to go. Since having Tilly, I realize I've probably been annoying a lot of people because she's pointed out that I sound more like a broken record than a partner how I was executing it. And she reminds me by saying, you have told me that. You have told me that already. And she's helped me refine the use of this, because what I think is so powerful about the broken record technique is that you're keeping hold of the goal, right? There's somewhere you need to get to as a business or as a partnership or as a parent.
Yeah.
And the intent really is to be listening and going on that journey with the people we need to go on it with, right? So I think the example that I recall from your book was about the becoming redundancies, right? And that there was going to be a cut in staff and that we needed to take action. And I work with a lot of projects where we do need to make some big changes. And it can be hard for people to get on board with those changes. So the broken record technique helps me iterate, that we still need to get this thing done, but how can we get there together? And what Tilly's really taught me with her excellent mirror is that I've got to listen and really relate to the other person's concerns and the roadblocks that they are coming across, even if they're their own kind of mental, personal roadblocks, and then find a way through together. But by not letting go, like, not being deterred, we've got to get to this goal together. It holds on, I guess it's not letting go of the goal, like you mentioned.
Yes.
Detaching from the outcome, but not letting go of the goal, and using that technique just to help people get along. And I wasn't very good at listening previously, but since Tilly, she's really helped me realize how I need to listen differently.
Oh, wow. So it's the listening that also supports the broken record approach to be more effective for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Nice.
Listening and adjusting my response more, right? Not just saying the same thing over and over, but adjusting.
Correct. Good point. Yeah. As you hear more information, you adjust your response, though it's still delivered in that calm, respectful manner.
Yes.
So we're going to pause here. And if you listeners want to find out more about Krisandra, you want to connect with her, you can reach out to her directly on LinkedIn. I'm going to spell her name for you. It's Krisandra, and her family name Knight, Knight. So you'll be able to find her on LinkedIn. When we come back from break, we're going to hear more from Krisandra and how using these partner mindset techniques are helping in the COVID world and your approach to leadership. Stay tuned. You're listening to Partner Up with Amy Carroll on the Voice America Business Channel. Welcome back to Partner Up with Amy Carroll. My guest today is Krisandra Knight, who is the head of sales operations for Maersk Oceania. We've been discussing how the use of partner mindset techniques have helped her to stay collaborative, both as a parent and as a leader. And so we're going to jump into some more questions, though. Krisandra, did you say you had a question for me?
Yes, Amy, I've got a question for you.
Okay.
So I think it's been 9 years or so that I've read your book and been practicing your techniques. And I'm really curious, does this ever become just natural? And, is this a journey ever end of just living partner?
Okay, so I'll use my own experience to answer that. I have been pleasantly surprised how my brain has really started to become a kinder place to live. So I have got a great story. This happened to me. I was in Jakarta. This was already many years ago. So this is a good sign that it hasn't been just recently. I'd never been to Jakarta before, and I had trained all day long. And that evening I was going a couple blocks from the hotel to have a massage. And so Jakarta is an intense place. I mean, just crossing the street for this little Westerner was, took a lot of focus. And I thought, Amy, you don't know this culture. You don't know this city. You don't know proper etiquette. So first of all, just, make sure you're focusing on getting across the street without upsetting cars or getting hit. And also the other thing that I didn't want to do was make so much eye contact with people, because I realized that in certain cultures, that's not always appropriate. So I got to the massage place easily. I had this amazing massage. And on the way home, I'm walking back and I'm staying focused because I know this big boulevard is coming up shortly. And I see a man that's standing off to the side, leaning against a wall. And there's no one else around except he and I. And so I just continue to walk straight ahead. And the first thing I hear is, and he clears his throat. And the next thing I feel is, and he has spit on my head. He had very good aim because he was not very close. And I had this little shock reaction to my body. And, so kind of all the benefit of the massage kind of just flew out the window. And I didn't, I don't remember if I looked at him or not. I think I did. I looked over And he's staying there. And I look back and I don't have any reaction on my face to my knowledge. What was most fascinating, Krisandra, is that in my head, the thought was, bless you. I know,
Wow.
right? To this man.
Wow.
I never got angry. I got curious. So after I crossed the street, I'm back in my hotel room, and it was a bit of a shock to go through that. So my body's like kind of recovering from the shock. And I just thought, I wonder why he did that. And so I don't know. I'll never know the truth, though I decided to make up the story that, and because, the other thing I noticed as my week progressed in Jakarta was how friendly people were. And they would see me and they would approach me and they'd ask me where I was from. And so they were very interested and curious in me. And so I used that as the story. As I kept thinking about this guy and this interaction, I thought, he probably expected me to connect with him and smile at him and make eye contact. And when I didn't do that and I looked straight ahead, maybe he interpreted that as a rude or a disrespectful to him, that maybe he thought, here's this Western woman who thinks she's too good for me. Because now I remember I had looked at him and I saw that he was dressed in a way that he didn't look like he was very wealthy. And I probably did look like I was wealthy and had money. And so the story I decided to make up was that he was carrying around this anger, and he decided to target it at me because that moment at that exchange, I didn't show kindness and respect towards him. Of course, it wasn't my intention at all, though he couldn't have known that. And though I tell you that story as how amazed I am to this day that I never got angry with him for doing such an unpleasant thing.
Right.
So I share that as a sign of encouragement that over time, the brain will change sometimes.
Actually, that's exactly the encouragement that I needed. I think that's really great. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the thing is, when we can already do the behaviors of partner externally, even if inside my head, my mind is thinking about, this person is being a jerk or being disrespectful, it's already for me a huge success if I can manage my external voice, body language, and words to hold respect for myself and for the other, because that's often enough to change the dynamics. And then when I see that person change in front of me, I do my happy dance, because I'm just always amazed. Oh my God, it worked again.
Yes. And kindness goes a long way, right? Just the intent of kindness and a smile, especially in these days when people are so isolated and physically distancing. Kindness goes a long way.
Yeah. Yes. So I'm curious to know, how has COVID impacted your approach to leadership?
Again, this is one of these sort of impression about myself changing moments. So pre-COVID, I thought I was like a very trusting boss and super flexible and really empowering. And COVID super tested that. So this having to let go, not having the control of all the work that's going on, really challenging. When are we working? So the level of flexibility has just increased exponentially, right? With everyone working from home, caring for children, managing online school for primary high school kids, right? We've really had to just let go of all these concepts about what work is and how it's controlled and how it's managed. So for me, COVID has really truly upped to my trust level and made me aware when my trust level is being, I guess, triggered in a way where I'm thinking, ooh, is that really happening? What's going on? It's just made me realize, okay, that's my issue, right? So I need to address that and then engage in a way that's inquisitive and supportive to help people, overcome whatever roadblocks they're having. So this COVID has definitely taught me to let go. It's increased my view of flexibility. I thought I was a big proponent of flexible working, and now I'm like, wow, this is beyond flexible.
Wow.
And it works.
Like what are some examples of that flexibility?
So I guess just not expecting people to be online at certain times. So allowing people to work, say, some people going online from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., taking a break in the middle of the day to set up kids online, and then coming back on in the afternoon or even evening. So that's very different schedule than we had imagined, but actually there's some real advantages that we can find in that. 4-day work weeks to support people, really late night working, like kind of as it suits the individual, right? Kind of letting them pick up things in the evening. For myself, just even, in these very stressful times, blocking out an hour for an online restorative yoga class was something I never would have considered before if I wasn't working from home. And really encouraging my team to say, look, if it's important for you to get out in the sunshine and take a run, block out 2 hours of your calendar in the middle of the day and work around it. As long as people know we can do these things, which I think when you're in the office tied to a desk, people kind of, oh, what time did she leave for lunch?
Right.
But when are they coming back? But we just don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
And it really catapulted us as a company into video chat, where before we would have been much more kind of email and maybe some phone calls.
Yeah.
It's allowed me, so having to be video ready and video on in meetings is exactly what you're talking about, controlling that body, the facial expressions and the tone a lot more. So those people, and we all have them, that we would have been listening to and go, oh my gosh, here we go. And rolling the eyes.
Yeah, it can't happen anymore.
Do it. Right? And the best thing about that is that I have to go, why do I want to roll my eyes? Because it's my, it's my thing.
Right.
So what is it? And I find I've made all these kinds of assumptions. I've had a conversation at some point in time. Something has happened and I've kind of drawn a conclusion about someone completely unfounded. Like you talk about with the make up a new story or make up another story in the partner techniques, which you illustrated in your story. And it's all stories. Like it's just all stories in our head. So making up another story about people and identifying kind of what's my trigger.
Yeah.
What is it about that that's making me want to roll my eyes? Controlling my facial expression when I'm challenged in groups, yes. Okay.
And, apparently when we don't make the grimacing face, it's harder for us to feel that negative feeling. So people might feel like, oh, I'm being inauthentic, I'm faking it. Well, that faking it can actually influence our internal mindset, which is kind of amazing.
That is amazing. And is it Amy Cuddy that talks about how the body posture influences the mind and the actual
she's one of the people, yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Power posing.
That's right. The power posing. So I can totally see what you're talking about, that by simply, kind of putting that forward, that partner approach in my body language and in my voice, I'm creating that mindset at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
I love your example of flexibility with people. Hey, if you need to, you want to go for a run and block X number of hours. And I can see now the direct correlation of how that increases trust. And when people feel trusted, it's a sign of respect. When we feel respected, we're just tend to be more loyal. When we're more loyal, we tend to give more of ourselves. So it's such a positive domino effect that you're describing.
Yes. And I would really say COVID has helped me challenge some of the kind of conceptions I had about what was acceptable in terms of flexibility.
Yes.
Or what was okay.
Right.
And so now there's a lot more. And I just, yes. And it makes life better for me too. Cause I'll book out time to go to gymnastics with Tilly, which is something I never would have been like, I'm going to work from home because I'm going to gymnastics class, but it's so fun, right? It's so fun.
Yeah. I was giving a training to 20 people a couple of weeks ago, and I stood up to do a demonstration. I realized they could see my yoga pants. I said, yes, I am wearing yoga pants, and that's the ongoing joke. And I just embraced it. And it's like, and people appreciate, I think, the authenticity and honesty of seeing people's homes, for example, and seeing their little kids run in and having that connection that we never had before.
Absolutely. And hearing leaders, senior leaders who we think of in a very professional context, talking about their family situation and having, their own kids at home or their
Yep.
grandkids at home because their kids are trying to work, things like that. It's
Yeah.
been really just sort of opened up the way we perceive each other and leaders.
Yeah, it makes it harder for us to not see each other more multidimensional. And when we can do that, like you're
Yes.
describing, that sense of empathy for them, I think naturally increases.
Mm-hmm. There was one story that I really wanted to share because I
Yeah.
thought it would be quite inspiring
Oh, good.
for you and for the people listening. And it has to do with accept the offer, which is something I struggle with. When someone offers to carry the groceries or take your
Right.
suitcase, or I was like, no, I've got it. Like, I'm a strong, independent woman. I've got this.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. So, yeah, let me add a little more meat to that for the listeners. So, accept the offer. This comes from improvisational theater, where your actors are co-creating the scenes, the skits, the dances, the songs right in the moment. And in order for this to be successful, one of the things we need to do with each other is accept the offer that the other person gives us and not block it or resist it or say no to it. And what I've found is that this is beneficial to all relationships, even with complete strangers. And in fact, in my book, there's that one story about the guy on the train and me,
Yes.
luckily at the last second accepting his offer. And no, it was not an offer of marriage, if in case you guys are wondering. It wasn't that, we didn't get that far. Though, and so the idea is an offer can be very literal. Can I help you with your groceries? Or it can be more subtle, like, wow, did you see that rainbow earlier? And so I'm encourage listeners to expand your concept of what an offer can be that you can receive from others and that you can give others. And Krisandra, maybe you're going to tell us in your story, though. I'm wondering, well, you did say a little bit why you tend not to accept offers. And I think there's other reasons people tend to block offers. One, we don't realize an offer has been made.
Right.
Two, we feel like we might have to owe the other person something. Three, sometimes this is unfortunately one of the reasons I like to block and say no sometimes in order to be clever and impress someone, which is usually the opposite of what happens. Okay, so please go ahead with your story.
Yeah, so Tilly goes to football, soccer class on the weekends, and one of the kids in her class was really struggling to stay engaged and stay with the group and sort of running all around. And the coach has set up this competition between two little teams to give them some skills practice. So the coach walks through what we're supposed to do, and Tilly's intently taking, and she's competition, she's there, she's ready, she wants to win. And the other kids just, wah! And the most beautiful thing happened. So this little kid who's sort of struggling to stay engaged comes over to Tilly and gives her the cone that he has collected as part of this drill. And the look on her face is like, what are you doing? This is competition. Like, the first kind of thing is like, does he not understand the instructions? And then within a split second, she says, okay, and adds the cone to her pile, which she's holding. And the most beautiful thing happens. They spent the next 6 minutes doing the drill together. And he would give every cone to Tilly and Tilly would hold it. They walked over to the coach and presented all their cones. They did it before the other team. And Tilly says, my little friend here and we did this together. We did this together. We won together. And I watched the two of them do this, and the engagement, the shift in the engagement, the fun that they were having, it was amazing. And I just thought to myself, what if we really did accept the offer?
Yeah.
How would that change the way that we're working and the way that we're relating? So that was just a really powerful moment for me.
Wow. There's something, I don't know if I'll get this right. There's, you can play the game, you can change the rules, you can change the game, something like that. It's like the two of them, they just completely flipped that game on its head.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, they did. And you could see her confusion at first.
Right.
Well, she had said earlier to her little friend, you need to be listening. She's very strict. I don't know where she gets that from. But She is very like, you should be listening to the coach so you know what's going on. So it was just really interesting to see in that split second, she just decided to take that cone. And they
Yeah.
work so beautifully together. And it changed his dynamic as well, right? Like
Right.
having that was like that virtual kind of hand extended. They became pals and they were like sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
It was really beautiful to see.
That is a classic, accepting the offer. Wow. So I have another question for you.
Yes.
You talk about something called GPS. What is that, and what
Oh,
impact does it have on your mindset?
so this is I'm sure you know a lot about positive psychology.
Yeah.
I'm just learning, and
Okay.
this was recommended to me by a coach that I have been working with. And GPS stands for grateful, pleased, and satisfied. And the idea is that as a daily practice to write down 3 things you're grateful for, 3 things you're pleased with, and 3 things you feel satisfied with.
Mm.
And for someone like, I'm always sort of looking externally for that feedback of what I've done well and feeling appreciated. For me, I found this was very soothing, right? So if anyone listening kind of feels like they've got a hook about getting other people to recognize them or getting other people to sort of give them, recognition or accolades, this really has helped me sort of just calm that voice in my head, because these are the things I feel grateful for, which is that sort of positive mindset coming in. Here's what I'm really pleased with. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. Here's
Yeah.
what I'm really pleased with. And here's what I feel really satisfied I've done today. It can be as simple as like, I got all the dishes out of the dish drain. They're
Right.
all put away now. Or it could be something, big, like, oh man, I got that big presentation, finished. I feel confident to give that tomorrow. I'm really feeling pleased with the work I've put into that.
Mm.
So yeah, GPS, I find it really, really powerful.
Okay. Thank you for that. That's fab. And how have the partner techniques in the Ego Tango helped you to build strong teams and deliver results?
Yes, so I'm a huge fan of the Ego Tango, and I share it with the team that works for me as well as other leaders.
Cool.
And I think probably what has one of the strongest techniques for me has been about the detach from the outcome partnered with the broken record technique,
Mm-hmm.
and just really helping people go on that change journey. So I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned a little bit about that before, but in addition to that, making up a different story,
Mm-hmm.
because I think we can interact with people from all around the world in all different cultures, and just as simple as something as like a dear sir in an email that I receive can kind of like, kind of be a trigger or put me off,
Oh, sure.
and then kind of making up a different story helps me take all of that reactive emotion out of things. And we talked about the people that you might be, if you weren't on video, you'd be rolling your eyes. It's also challenging that story that's in my head about what their motivations might be or why they're doing that. And that really helps me bring the team together, because I can offer them some alternatives. And as a team, I think it can be really easy to sort of get stuck in a story, like, oh, this team isn't really helpful. They don't understand what we do. They're always making errors or causing problems. And by my coming up with those alternative stories, I can open that door for the team and say, okay, guys, let's take a step back.
Nice.
What might be happening for them? What are the challenges they might be facing? How can we connect with them in a way and sort of change our own story as a team? So I think that these techniques apply not just to ourselves, but also to the way we get people collaborating or the questions that we
Yeah.
might ask as leaders.
Oh, well done. You were moving towards the end of our discussion today, and I want to ask you a kind of a combo question as the last question. And it's
Sure.
sort of like ways you use to stay calm during stressful situations, and then maybe connecting that with the wanting nothing time.
Oh,
Can you
well,
combine
thank you
those
so
two?
much. Absolutely.
Okay, good.
So one of the things that I've recently learned in a leadership course was called the third space. And I can't remember where it's come from, but using just 5 minutes in between meetings and taking breaths, or 5 minutes in between engagements, using the breath just to calm and
Mm,
center and set an intention for the next interaction has dramatically reduced stress for me and anxiety. And that also, a little tip for people is that if you set your Microsoft Outlook calendar, it will automatically give you 5, 10, or 15 minutes in between your meetings. It'll automatically schedule that in for you.
Nice.
So I've been using that 5 minutes to really I'm not going to get anything done. I'm simply going to breathe, take a moment, and use that third space to set the intention. And talking about the want nothing time actually comes from Janet Lansbury. So she talks a lot about this. And it's a great technique with kids. And you think about it, want nothing time is when you're not looking for anything from them. You don't want them to get dressed, you don't want them to brush their teeth, you don't want them out the door. Versus want something time, which is I want you to eat your dinner, I want you to clear your plate, or I want you to pick up your food, those kinds of things. And I've been applying this with my team. So if any of them are listening, they probably know what I'm doing now. But just reaching out, not delegating anything, not following up on anything, but like, how are you? How's your day going? What's happening for you? And really encouraging that conversation to go outside of work. And of course, if they want to talk about work, I do. But that want nothing time, I think, is an opportunity for human connection. And it's just, especially in this pandemic isolation, it's about saying, like, I'm just here for you. I don't want anything from you. And it's hard to do as a parent, and it's hard to do as a leader. And I think it's really important.
Gorgeous. Well, we are just about out of time. In 30 seconds or less, can you give me, for the listeners, a call for action?
Absolutely. My call to action is be kind to yourself. Connect with someone that really, makes you feel good, and connect with someone else with the intent of making them feel good, because I think we all need that in this day and time.
That's beautiful. And for me, my first call for action is to practice the GPS. I love that. Grateful, pleased, satisfied. I can't wait till the day's over so I can sit down and go, well, what was it?
Excellent.
And my other call for action for listeners is for listeners, send me your communication conundrums, clashes, challenges, mishaps, and blunders and successes via email or social media. I'll read them and discuss them on future shows, perhaps make suggestions. My email is amy@carrollcoaching.com. That's 2 R's and 2 L's. If you want to connect with Krisandra, you can do so on LinkedIn. That's Krisandra Knight, KrisandrakNight. Now, do you know what can trigger even nice people to make unethical choices? Do you have your own definition for ethical behavior? If you're curious and you want to know more, be sure to tune in next week for my discussion with Dr. Bettina Palozzo and find out how to turn your ethical challenges into a secret superpower. And speaking of superpowers, if you want to join my superhero partner power, you want to take them in your powers into the next decade, feel free to join me for my online leadership presence course. And you can check out more about that on my website, carrollcoaching.com, or connect with me on any of my social media channels, Amy Carroll Coaching. Krisandra, thank you. It has been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much. It's been so much fun.
Wonderful. And listeners, thanks for tuning in. You've been listening to Partner Up with Amy Carroll on the Voice America Business Channel. Happy partnering, everyone.